You find out by accident. A mutual friend mentions it. Their name shows up somewhere it shouldn't. Or you're still close enough in their life to watch it happen in real time. A new person, a new energy, and it's been weeks. Not months, weeks. Sometimes even days. And the question that hits hard is, how did they move on so fast? Well, I'm still standing in the wreckage of what we had. Here's what we're not going to tell you today. That it was nothing, that it doesn't mean anything, that you shouldn't feel what you're feeling. What you're feeling is real, and it deserves a real answer.
So today, we're telling you the truth about why some avoidants turn to someone new instead of facing what was actually happening between you. Not to make it hurt less, but to make it make sense.
Underneath, why did they replace me so fast, is a much more painful question. Was I that easy to leave behind? I want to answer that now, before we go anywhere else, because you shouldn't have to wait for it. You aren't that easy to leave behind. What made this so fast has nothing to do with how replaceable you are. It's quite the opposite, in fact. It's how much you'd already become to them. Weird, right? So here's what I mean by that. A new person at the very beginning costs an avoidance system almost nothing. No shared history to account for, no accumulated expectations, no moment where they let you down and have to sit in that. None of the weight that closeness builds slowly over time, the way closeness is supposed to. You had all of that weight with them, and that's not a flaw in what you built. It's exactly what real intimacy is made of. So when we say they turned to someone new, we don't mean they found someone better. We mean they found someone lighter and less complicated. And by that, we mean new. Because that's exactly how most relationships start, light and uncomplicated. And lighter was never a fair comparison to what you gave them. We want to take just a moment for those of you new here to welcome you. I'm Tarina Terry.
And I'm Joel Terry.
And this little guy is Da Vinci Terry.
We're both licensed therapists, and we help people with insecure attachment styles build secure, healthy relationships, what we call earned security. I bring the science.
And I bring the heart. Vinci here brings the purrs. If what we shared today helps you, the best and easiest way to support our work is to subscribe, like, and hype this video. It truly gives our videos wider reach. Okay, so let's get back into it with the research. Joel, take it away.
You've probably heard that avoidants move on fastest after a breakup. Turns out, the research doesn't back that up. Avoidant attachment doesn't reliably predict how quickly someone starts dating again. If anything, anxious attachment does. What avoidant attachment does predict is something more specific and more useful for what you're actually asking. So researchers ran 8 separate studies on this, and people higher in avoidant attachment noticed attractive alternatives faster, rated cheating as less of a big deal, and engaged in more infidelity over time. And here's the part that matters most. This wasn't explained by how tempting the alternative was. It was explained by how little commitment was holding them in place to begin with.
I want to pause on that word commitment, because I know exactly how this can land if you're anxiously attached. I was anxiously attached for a long time, and it's easy to hear lower commitment and translate it into I wasn't worth committing to. But that's not what the research is describing. This isn't about your value. It isn't about how good the relationship was or whether you gave enough or were enough. It's a structural feature of the avoidance system itself. Deactivating strategies work by keeping the exits visible and the stakes low as a form of protection that their system built long before they ever met you. That's true even with a partner who's genuinely wonderful, like you. It will be true with anyone. The commitment gap isn't a verdict on you. It's a description of a system that keeps its exits open no matter who's standing in the relationship with it. So hear that again, because it reframes the whole question. It's not that the new person had some kind of a quality that you didn't. It's that commitment itself was never doing the job in this relationship that it's supposed to. Real commitment is what makes someone say no to an easier option because they've decided you're the person they're building with. For an avoidant system, the research says that inhibition was already thinner than it looked from the outside, which means for a lot of you watching this, the turn didn't just start the week you found out. It started long before in a system that was never fully resistant to the exit in the first place.
So here's the actual shape of it. Anxious attachment showed the stronger tendency to move into a new relationship faster once one ends. Avoidant attachment doesn't show that same pattern. What it shows instead is a standing openness to alternatives and a lower commitment ceiling, active the whole time, not just after a breakup. That's why it can look like they moved on overnight. They didn't need to catch up to someone new. Part of them was never fully closed to that option in the first place. Now let's get specific, because avoidant isn't just one thing, and this looks different depending on what's underneath it. If you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant, this is usually manager-led. The manager is the proactive protector, the one running logistics before a crisis hits. A manager-led exit is quiet. It lines things up. It secures the next connection before the current one is officially over, not out of malice, but because an unplanned ending feels like losing control. And losing control is the one thing this protector exists to prevent. A lot of you use a specific term for this in the comments: monkey branching. If you hadn't heard it, the idea is an avoidant swinging to a new connection before fully letting go of the branch they're already on, never spending a moment without somewhere to land. It's not clinical language, but it captures the manager's logic exactly. Don't release one branch until the next one can hold your weight.
If you're dealing with a fearful avoidant, it's usually firefighter-led instead. The firefighter is reactive, not proactive. It shows up when shame or panic has already flooded the system, and it reaches for whatever puts the fire out fastest. A new person's attention can do exactly that. Flirtation can do that. It's not planned the way the manager's exit is. It's grabbed at.
Same outward behavior, turning towards someone new, completely different internal event. One is a protector managing an exit in advance. The other is a protector managing a wildfire in the moment.
And underneath both of them, there's an exile, a part carrying an old belief. Something like, I'll disappoint you eventually, or closeness always ends badly. That new person doesn't know that belief exists yet. And that's the whole appeal. Not that they're better, that they're uninformed. We want to be direct about something before we move forward, because we say this every time attachment explains a painful behavior, and we mean it every time. Attachment may give you the mechanism, but it does not give anyone permission. If they were still in a relationship with you while building something with someone else, that was a choice made by a person capable of choosing otherwise.
That's right. The protector explains why the exit felt urgent to their system, but it doesn't absolve the responsibility for the exit itself. Both things are true at once. Their nervous system was doing what it was built to do under threat, and they were still the one who decided what to do with that threat. Understanding the pattern is not the same as excusing the harm it caused you. For our Inner Circle Growth members, we've built a worksheet specifically for this video called You Weren't Too Much. It walks you through separating what was actually about their capacity from what your mind is telling you about your worth, rewriting the moments you are currently mislabeling as too much, and a grounding sequence for when the comparison spiral starts. It's in your private library now, and if you're not a member yet, click the join button below the video and select Inner Circle Growth. It gives you a worksheet for every video we create.
Your membership also really helps us by supporting our channel, which in turn helps us keep making these videos for you. So if what we've been doing here is helping you, please click join below. So let's get to the heart of it. If you're watching someone new step into the space you used to hold, I want you to know something about what they actually inherited. Not you, not what you built together. They inherited the same system, minus the time that would have eventually asked more of it than it could give. That's not a competition you lost. It's a preview of what's coming for them too whenever the closeness starts asking for something real. Let me tell you a little of my story. I was in college when I experienced this kind of heartbreak firsthand. Toward the end of the relationship, One of our fights was about the letters he'd been writing to another girl, letters I considered love letters. He denied it, of course. I was just jealous, insecure. You know the whole song and dance. We broke up, but we kept spending all of our time together until she came back from out of state. Overnight, he stopped seeing me and started dating her. Within a year, they were married. So you can imagine the stories I was telling myself. And that's fast, I know, but moving into something quickly was never the same as being able to hold on to it. What happens next tells you which one was true. Because here's the really interesting thing. The day I found out they'd married was the worst day, but it was also somehow the beginning of my real healing. I literally remember waking up the following day feeling free. But guess what? Here's the part you can't see right now because you're still in it. But I can share it with you because I've already lived through it. Within a year, they were divorced. And when I heard, I didn't feel spiteful toward her. I just felt for her. She'd married the very thing that used to make my stomach drop with jealousy, and it still didn't last. If anything, she paid the higher price. She stayed long enough to build a whole life around it before it came apart. For years, whenever I thought of him, what I felt wasn't hurt, anger, or even regret. It was clarity. Once I had distance, I could finally see the relationship for what it had actually been the whole time, but I was too close to name it. Now, he's just a footnote in my history called The Bullet I Dodged. As painful as it was to my 20-year-old self, I learned and grew from it. If you're in the place where it still hurts every time you think about it, that's exactly the space I work in with people one-on-one. My coaching information is linked below, and I'm going to hold the hope and the vision for you and for your healing until you can hold it for yourself. Before you go, we want to hear from you, and I want to tell you something first. We actually had a different video queued up for today, but this pain point kept surfacing in our comments again and again, and it was clearly causing real hurt, so we moved it to the front of the line. What we make next depends a lot on what you tell us here, so keep telling us. If what we talked about today is still fresh, tell us how it's landing for you. And if enough time has passed that you're on the other side of it now saying, wow, I dodged that bullet, tell us about that too. Your story might be exactly what someone earlier on this path needs to hear today.
If what you're sitting with right now is, was this even attachment? Or was it something colder than that? We made a video that walks through exactly how to tell the difference, and you can watch it here. Subscribe and take care of your heart.
And remember, you're not alone. We're all in this
Together.
together.